All right, I find myself today in Zoho Analytics, just like every other day. But today let's figure out how to import a flat file. Now, I am automatically brought to my workspaces page. So I'm going to click into my workspace and getting straight to it. If I go over here on the left hand side, you can see this little ribbon. There is a button here called Data Sources. If we click Data Sources, it's going to list all your different data sources you have in here. To add a new one, obviously, we're going to add data sources. And it brings up all your different options for adding a data source. Right here, to do a flat file, it shows Excel, but when we hover over it, you can see you can have Excel, CSV, HTML, on and on and on. As long as it's a flat file, you can use this little link here. Now it wants us to name the table, so when we go look it up, we know what we're looking for. I'm going to call this inventory. Ooh, good, it populated. A description is optional. Table name you have to have, but a description is optional. I almost never put them. That's probably bad practice. But it is really good to have when you have multiple people in here looking at tables. With a description, you know exactly what you're looking at, especially if you have multiple inventory tables. Maybe you're working with multiple companies and you're constantly looking at different inventory tables. So that could be helpful. Now, here we're just going to do a flat file, and actually my CSV is just a Google Sheet. I have just created this dumb little example here, and all I did was file download a CSV. You can do Excel too if you want to, just to have a flat file. For this example, that's what I've done, and so I can select my file type. It automatically puts CSV here. You can change it to Excel, and then these other ones are not very heavily used, just because Excel and CSV files are very popular with companies still. You can have the option to pull it from your local drive, which we'll do today, but another option is to paste your data. All that means is exactly what it sounds like. We're going to come over here to your file, we're going to copy all the information in here, and we're going to paste it. Now that can be a little bit heavier than just pulling from a file, because you have to put all that information on your clipboard to paste it in here. I think this is the third option, and I think it's the least used option here. You can connect a flat file to an FTP or SFTP. I won't go over any of that stuff in this video because that's getting quite in depth, but if we're going to use FTP or SFTP, you can choose it here. We just want to make sure that you have all this other information in there so it will connect correctly. I'm going to go back to local drive. I will do choose file. I download that CSV here, and that's all I do. Choose that file. Right before I hit next, I want to draw some attention to this general info, mainly this line here. So data size should be less than 100 megabytes, and number of rows should be less than 1 million. So if you have a really large file, I don't recommend you do it through this flat file import. It could just overload it, be a little too much for Zoho to handle. So it mentions down here that you can do it through a data bridge. I'm going to go ahead and hit next, and then it brings up, here's our inventory name. We named it, or excuse me, the table name, we named it inventory. Right here we can see first row contains column names. Now mine did. I have all these different titles for my different columns, so I didn't actually select it, but selected it for me. You can change it. Date format, there's no date columns in here. You can, however, choose how you want it to change the date format if you want it changed. There are more CSV options here. In all the time I've used this, I have never used any of these. I have, however, used excuse me, in all the time I've used these, I haven't used these four right here. I have used the comma to, sometimes it reads it wrong, so I have to change it from either a comma or a tab pipeline, or lots of times it's a space, and then skip top rows. So you can see if we hover over here, it's going to tell us how many we should skip. So if you are downloading a report and it comes out with some weird stuff at the top, things you don't want to worry about, then you can just tell it to skip and not have to go through that file and actually delete those out. Let's close that up and proceed here. This is just a quick check I do. It's an awesome little screen. These are also cool little tools I have in another video. But a quick check you can do is, are these data types here correct? My numbers, positive numbers, that's great. Plain text, a currency, that's great. I would also take it if it was like a positive number or a decimal number. That would be great. I could convert it later. And then retail price is also currency. So those all look perfect. I'm going to go ahead and hit create. And since it's a teeny tiny file, it's instant. And then it brings you to this screen. Okay. I'm kind of surprised to see this, but auto-generate reports. On your first one usually, and if you don't click this box, like I'm going to do, it's going to pop this up every time you import something new. Zoho Analytics is pretty smart, and it will take your data source and create all sorts of different reports for you. I hate that. So I'm going to go, don't show this again, and absolutely not. Do not create reports for me. So now we have our flat file in here. We have all the information. We can compare it to our other file to make sure that everything got in there. 4 columns with 11 rows, including the headers here. So that's the same columns, and 10, 11, including the headers. So it's all in there, and now we can do whatever we want to convert it, play around with it, and make sense of the data. I know I went through importing this flat file kind of quickly, so there's a lot of details, teeny tiny details, that I skipped throughout this video. If you want to figure out all the little details, especially the cool little extra tools that are in there, go ahead and look at some of the other videos, and I will see you a little bit later.